back to the Kings. I've thought more about this teardown thing than we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was on the fence because I saw both sides of it, and just kind of the more I thought about it, I think if you don't reset and you don't rebuild, and we've described this rebuild as being a if you're trading Domantas Sabonis, you're doing so not to acquire like, oh hey, we need to trade this guy to unlock Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Like, no, you're trading him because he has value and you can get assets for the future. Like that's the same thing. If you're trading Zach LaVine, it's less about the players you're getting back. If you can get a nice young player, cool, but it's more about like the draft picks and the compensation and what you can build out of that war chest, out of that reset. And the reason I think you need to reset is this is not like oh man, they were this close. They were one piece away, and now they need that one piece to get over the hump. Like, no, there's no hump to get over. This didn't work. I don't think that they can do with what they have available. I don't think that they can make the leaps that they're going to need to make to build around whatever big contracts they currently have. Whether that's Zach LaVine or Domantas Sabonis or DeMar DeRozan, I don't think that they have the assets to make the moves they would need to make. And so for me, there has to be a reset of sorts. That doesn't mean trade everybody, start at ground zero. Like, no, like Keegan Murray's 24 going on 25. Okay, keep Keegan Murray. Keon Ellis, same thing. You like what he's got there. Outside of that, there's not a like, oh hey, just we're a piece away, we're one guy away. It's not. There has to be a wholesale change. And to me, you've fired Mike Brown, you've hired Doug Christie, you've hired Scott Perry. Like, let this be a new era. It's really clear. Firing Mike Brown, firing Monty McNair, Wes Wilcox leaving, getting not fired but leaving. That all said, this is over. This era of Kings basketball is over. Let Scott Perry and Doug Christie start with whatever they start at a baseline that's not. Yeah, can you get us to 45 wins because we don't want to be bad?
Okay, so I am never going to advocate for running it back with this current group. Like, don't get me wrong here at all. I do not think that if you started at the beginning of last season with this roster, this is a 500 roster. You might have had 2 or 3 more wins.
Sure.
Total.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that there was a point last season, early in the year, where I do think the Kings were one move away from not being a title contender, but from being a legitimate contender for a top-tier Western Conference playoff spot. But that team is gone. When you trade De'Aaron Fox, that team is gone.
Right.
You spent almost 8 years calling him the head of the snake, and then you lopped off the head of the snake. So now you're directionless. You need to figure out who you are and all that stuff moving forward. I do see a way, though, in which the Kings can make moves and get right back into this thing. And even if, like, I know a lot of people go, no, that there's no way, like, 1 or 2 moves is not going to change the direction of this team. But I'm just going to point out, like, the Los Angeles Lakers, I don't see them getting, like, way better. Like, LeBron James is going to be another year older. He's going to play fewer games. Luka Doncic is great, but he also is injury prone and doesn't play nearly as much. And
Sure.
They didn't look really good in the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets are, again, in a salary cap situation. They fired their head coach. They're looking to revamp and maybe be able to reload, but they might not be able to get there either. The Los Angeles Clippers are the Clippers. They fizzle out every year. Like the Timberwolves have 3 rotational pieces that are huge pieces for them that are all either free agents or can become free agents. Like the Golden State Warriors are just old as a team. They just, and you saw what happened when Steph Curry goes out, they're done. All right. So when we get to like the team above the Kings, the Memphis Grizzlies, I think everyone sees major changes coming for the Grizzlies as well, especially when you factor in that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have to sign an extension.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Yep.
I don't think you can build or not build your team based on like, hey, maybe those teams will all be ass. Like, are you telling me we just watched the Lakers get Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and a bag of chips?
Yeah.
Like, just like we can go, oh, well, maybe they won't be any good. They could also get Kevin Durant. And
that's true.
And like, so that's where I don't think you can base this on what the rest of the Western Conference looks like, because hoping that, hey, maybe 46 wins get you a top 6 seed is not that good of a way to go about building your basketball team.
No, I agree. But my point is that this thing is wide open outside of OKC. OKC is the one team that we know is going to be really, really good next year. The rest of the teams, we have no idea. And the Kings aren't that far away from being part of that group. But I mean, not in their current build. And so that's why first of all, I'm not all in on a rebuild, because I know the Kings are never going to be all in on a rebuild.
Even if they should. Even if they should.
And I'll agree. Like, yeah, there should be a moment where you have to rebuild everything. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But they're not going to. So I live in that world where I understand that, like, yeah, there are potential for them to go trade players and players that people like.
Probably should, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm looking at this team going, okay, like there is no way they're going to cut ticket prices. And there's no way that this team is going to go all the way backwards. Just the idea that you might be able to make it is usually enough for people to come out to games. And, the fact that, again, look at Sutter Health Park emptying out right now. When you lose 19 out of 20 games, nobody cares about you at all anymore.
Yeah,
and that's on you. That's not on the fans. Like, it doesn't matter where this team plays. They were in Oakland. They'd be drawing 3,000 fans.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to watch a team that does not compete.
Correct.
And it's the same exact thing for basketball. Like, if you're not going to be competitive at all and go do what, some of these, the Utah Jazz, the and
I guess
Blazers.
And I guess that's where we separate here.
Yeah.
Is because I understand what you're saying completely. To me, just being competitive enough that you don't have to slash ticket prices is brutal.
Oh, I totally agree.
That is just brutal.
Yes.
I'm
not telling you that that's my idea.
No, I know that.
I'm telling you that that's where they're at.
That sucks, dude. And I get and to be totally clear on this, because I don't want this to I think you're right. And I think that there are 30 out of 30 teams that feel the same way. There are just some teams, Charlotte, Washington, they get backed into a corner where
they just can't get good.
Right.
Yeah.
And they accumulate the draft capital, they make the wrong picks, and now they're just in this death spiral of being bad.
Yeah, or even if you make the right picks, nobody cares. Nobody cares about what you're doing, and you just can't get out of your own way, and inconsistency of management, inconsistency of coaching, and all that stuff. Yeah, it's like that's when the death spiral is like, it's bad. Like, and I've seen it so many times here in Sacramento.
I wonder if not to say that, oh man, if the Kings rebuild, people would be stoked about it. Like, no, because it would mean a lot of losing. There'd be at least a couple of years where you're winning 20 to 30 games, and it's pretty brutal. But it would be in service of ideally climbing to a tier that they're not presently set to get to.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I don't think that Kings fans or really any fan base would be cool with not running it back, but being in a position where we're going into this year. Like, yeah, if things break right, maybe they're a top 6 seed. I think there's after breaking the playoff drought, it feels like there's now this aspiration of like, okay, now the next thing, now deep playoff run, now championship run.
Yeah.
Like some level, again, it's not that line is not linear, but the which I think doesn't make sense because line and linear are the same thing. That path is not linear.
Okay.
I don't think they can get to that path without a teardown. And that's why I landed on that side of the fence, because I don't think people are largely going to be cool with like being pretty mid for the next couple of years in service of, well, at least they get to keep the ticket prices high.
Well, no, I think the struggle that you have here too is that you're watching two teams that are so far ahead in their build, in the Thunder and Houston. And so you're always looking at like, hey, where's my window going to be?
Sure.
And I think there are a bunch of teams that their window's closing. We can see it, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Lakers might extend there because of Luka, but
sure.
But the Warriors, like you're seeing the runs come to an end. Even the Nuggets, you can see that, okay, like, look, they keep losing pieces and they're getting to a point where sure, they'll have an MVP caliber player, but do they have enough pieces around him? So we're watching that there is this window where you can get right back into it, right? And you're trying to beat teams, but if you step back, you can see that the window is closing on the Kings, just like it is on all those other teams. It's just straight up is. Like, that's why going out and getting a 35-year-old DeMar DeRozan, it just like pushed your window open and put like a pebble in the place. Like, oh, it's still open. You see the window? It's still open. It's like, yeah, it's open about like the width of my pinky. Like, that's where your window is. And oh, look, your window closed. You got bounced into play-in. So it's a weird situation to be in. But again, that's why you don't let people who you don't have faith in and that you don't believe are the right people to make the decisions moving forward. And you're going to fire these guys. That's why you don't have them make trades on the way out the door.
Yeah.
You just don't. De'Aaron Fox was perfectly fine waiting until this summer. Perfectly fine waiting until this summer to get traded. And you basically gave up a 30-game window with Doug Christie as his head coach to say, okay, is there any way we can convince you? You just gave that away. You just punted it. You just punted and you traded him. And again, you traded away a major position of need in the NBA, the most crucial position in the NBA. You traded that piece for a scorer that can't play that other position. And that's where, again, like your build just takes a huge step backwards. Like, how do you get out of this?
Yeah.
So tough.
Yeah, man. I keep going back to young players and picks, acquiring those and figuring it out down the road, because I don't think a team with Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis on it as the two best players is going to get where people ultimately want to go. That's where I stand as of today. Maybe they do that this year and Scott Perry's the best GM in the league and they put the right pieces and, oh my God, they're in the conference finals. And I would be stoked to sit here and go, wow, super wrong. But man, it is hard to see it again on June 4th, 2025, that formula working. Just because I don't think there's really a precedent for it. And I think when teams get to this point where they hit a ceiling, they either fire Tom Thibodeau to try and get a different coaching and get this group over the hump, or you restart. And that's why I've now fallen on the restart side of the fence. You mentioned point guards.
Yeah.
We have a report from Hoops Hype about one of the point guards the Kings are interested in. Get fired up, everybody. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about another report. The funniest report of the day about the Kings and the players they want to trade. We'll talk about that next. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. He's Joe Brazil. Jiffy Lube is omnipresent because they sponsor the show on ESPN 1320. It's Sacramento's sports leader.